Picture yourself clutching a rope on a creaking ship, the storm howling, salt and blood burning your nose. Every moment a gamble with death. If you were a pirate in 1700, in the wild heart of the golden age of piracy, death wasn't just a risk, it was often your only escape from a brutal, lawless world. How would you meet your end on the high seas? What would it feel like to live on a ship rotting beneath your feet, dodging cannons, storms, and betrayal? What secrets would you hide in the ocean's depths? Stay with me, because this story pulls you into a maelstrom of battles, disease, and lives lost to the waves. Step into 1700, the peak of the golden age of piracy, where you'd sail the Caribbean's turquoise waters, the Atlantic's gray swells, or the Indian Ocean's far-off trade routes, your black flag snapping in the wind. You're defying empires England, Spain, francerating their merchant ships for gold, rum, sugar, or spices. Your sloop or frigate, nimble but battered, darts between lawless havens like Nassau, Tortuga, or Madagascar's hidden coves. These ports buzz with drunken pirates, scheming traders, and spies for the crown. But piracy's no tale of buried treasure and merry adventure. You'd face storms that could snap your mast like a twig, naval squadrons hunting you with cannon fire, diseases festering in your ship's damp hold, and crewmates who'd slit your throat for a coin. Your ship is your home, your weapon, and often your grave. In this video, you're stepping onto a blood-soaked deck to live the life of a pirate. Who would you be, risking it all for freedom or riches? How would you survive in a floating prison reeking of decay? What scraps would keep you alive? What wounds would tear your body apart? What sicknesses would eat you from within? How would you keep order in a crew of cutthroats? And how would death finally claim you? By the end, you'll feel the ship sway, the sting of your wounds, and the weight of your choices in a world where survival was a daily miracle. Let's dive into the life you'd lead, starting with who you'd be under that black flag. Imagine you're James, a 19-year-old with skin weathered by sun and wind, scars crisscrossing your arms, your green eyes burning with a spark that won't die. You weren't born a pirate. Back in Bristol, England, you were a fisherman's son, hauling nets with your father under a sky full of gulls, racing your younger sister Mary along the rocky shore. Her laughter echoed as you skipped stones across the tide, her small hands tossing you apples from a neighbor's tree. At 17, you signed onto a merchant ship to escape poverty, dreaming of distant ports. But off Barbados, pirates attacked your vessel. Cannons roared, swords flashed, blood pooled under your boots as you swung a knife at a one-eyed raider. They overpowered you, offering a grim choice: join the Storm Crow or sink to the deep. You signed their code, hand trembling, heart still in Bristol, where Mary waits, sewing nets by the harbor, her songs of the sea lingering in your dreams. Most pirates were like you, captured sailors from English or Dutch ships, Navy deserters fleeing brutal captains, escaped slaves from Caribbean plantations, or desperate farmers from Ireland or Scotland. You'd meet rogues from London slums, African runaways with tribal scars, even women like Anne Bonny, hiding their sex or fighting openly. You're no hero or villain, just a soul chasing freedom, bound by the sea's dangers. Each dawn, you'd wake with salt on your lips, Mary's songs fading like fog, clutching her copper coin etched with a crude anchor in your pocket. The horizon calls, but it's a beast with teeth. If you were out there, like James, would you be just a thief or a dreamer, clinging to a fading hope? Step into your world to find out. Every morning, as the sun paints the sea gold and crimson, you'd climb to the Storm Crow's deck, a battered sloop groaning under the weight of cannons, barrels, and a restless crew of 30 souls. The air reeks of salt, tar, and damp wood, mixed with the stench of unwashed bodies, rotting ropes, and bilge water seeping from the hold, a sour, sickly smell that clings to your clothes. The ship's a tangle of patched sails, knotted rigging, and splintered planks scarred by years of cannon fire and storms. You'd sleep in a hammock slung in a dark, moldy hold, the air thick with the reek of rat droppings and stale sweat. You share it with Finn, an Irish sailor with a quick laugh, your body swaying so close you feel his breath on your neck. Nights are restless snores, creaking timbers, and shouts from drunken fights over dice, or a stolen sip of rum fill the air. You'd lie awake, staring at cracked planks above, your mind drifting to Bristol's harbor, where you raced Mary through warm sand, her giggles blending with the cry of gulls circling overhead. Some nights, you pull out Mary's coin, its anchor glinting in the flicker of a stolen candle, gripping it like a lifeline to home. Other pirates cling to their own relics. Finn whispers prayers over a faded rosary, begging mercy for his mother in Cork. Quasey, escaped from a Jamaican plantation, carves tiny wooden birds, each feather a memory of his village by a river. Sarah, a woman pirate with a sharp tongue, hides a locket with her lost daughter's name scratched inside, stolen from her years ago in a raid. The ship's your world, but it's a floating prison, rocking on a sea that could turn killer in a heartbeat. When you dock in Nassau or Tortuga, you'd wade through chaotic taverns, the air thick with rum, smoke, and the sweat of brawling pirates. You once saw Tom, a wiry kid, collapse in a Nassau alley, robbed blind after a night of drinking, his knife useless in his belt. Another night, Ellen, a Cornish woman with a scarred cheek, sang a shanty about her homeland's cliffs, her voice cracking as the crew joined in, their slurred voices a fleeting bond. In Tortuga, you dodged a brawl where a pirate, Jack, lost an eye to a broken bottle, his curses echoing in the night. You'd hear whispers of mutinies, deals with crooked merchants, and tales of sunken Spanish gold, each story pulling you deeper into this lawless life. Some nights, you'd sit with Quasey, listening to his stories of African rivers, or with Finn, who'd hum Irish tunes, his fingers tracing his rosary. These moments, rare as calm seas, keep a flicker of hope alive. If you were here, like James, you'd feel the weight of this cramped, stinking ship crushing your spirit, but what would keep you fighting through the chaos? It's not just the promise of gold, and we'll uncover that spark soon. Food is a scarce treasure, barely enough to keep you standing. You'd gnaw on hardtack biscuits crawling with weevils, spitting out bugs when you can, or choke down salted beef so rancid it smells like death itself. On rare days, you'd savor oranges or sugar swiped from a merchant ship, a fleeting taste of life. Water stored in oak barrels turns slimy and foul after weeks at sea, tasting of mold and leaving a bitter film in your mouth. You'd chew hardtack till your jaw aches, your stomach snarling, hunger a constant knife in your gut. Ship logs from the Arisho pirates often starved on long voyages, their rations gone without a prize to raid. After capturing a Dutch trader off Hispaniola, you'd find a mango, its sweet juice flooding your mouth, pulling you back to Bristol, where Mary tossed you apples under a tree, her grin brighter than the sun. You share it with Tom, a scrawny kid who reminds you of your cousin, his eyes glowing as juice drips down his chin. But hunger bites back fast, sharper than any blade. On the Storm Crow, you'd see men brawl over scraps, fists flying for a chunk of rancid pork. One night, Jack stabbed Will over a gulp of rum, blood pooling on the deck as you watched, heart pounding in your chest. You'd learn to eat fast, hiding crumbs in your shirt, hands trembling with need. In Tortuga, you traded a stolen silver ring for a piece of roasted turtle, its smoky flavor a rare joy you shared with Quasey, who spoke of yam stews cooked over open fires in his village. On a grueling voyage, you'd gag on fish head soup, its stench curling your stomach, but you'd force it down, knowing starvation waits like a shark. Ellen once bartered a handful of dried plums from a French ship for a needle to mend her coat, her eyes fierce as she haggled with a one-armed sailor. Another time, in Nassau, you tasted a stolen pineapple, its tang sharp and sweet, shared with Sarah, who whispered of her daughter's love for fruit before she was taken. You'd dream of your mother's fish stew, its aroma of garlic and cod filling your Bristol cottage, your family laughing around a weathered table under a flickering lamp. Some days, you'd chew on memories, picturing Mary sneaking you bread crusts, her fingers sticky with jam. Other times, you'd see pirates hoard scraps, their eyes darting like rats, ready to fight for a morsel. Food is life, but it's never enough, and it's not your deadliest enemy. If you were here, like James, hunger would gnaw at your bones, but something far worse lurks beyond the waves. Your work as a pirate is a whirlwind of danger and sweat. You'd hoist heavy sails, the rough canvas tearing at your palms, or climb slick masts in freezing rain that stings like needles, the wind threatening to hurl you to the deck. You'd load cannons, their iron barrels burning your hands with hot powder, the recoil jarring your bones. The Stormcrow hunts merchant ships, Spanish galleons heavy with gold, English traders stuffed with sugar, or Dutch vessels brimming with spices along the Caribbean's busy trade routes. When you spot a prize, the deck erupts. You'd run with your cutlass drawn, cannons thundering, smoke and splinters choking your lungs. You swing your blade, heart pounding, fear sour in your throat as you leap onto an enemy deck. In a raid off Havana, you'd see Will fall, his chest ripped open by a Spanish rapier, his cry drowned by the boom of a cannon. Captain Blackthorne, a grizzled man with a face scarred from a dozen fights, bellows orders from the helm, his pistol flashing in the sun, his voice cutting through the chaos like a whip. But battles aren't your only threat. Storms can shatter a ship, waves crashing like hammers, sweeping men into the deep. One night, a hurricane slams the Stormcrow off Jamaica, the mast creaking like a breaking bone, ropes whipping like angry snakes. You'd cling to a line, hands bleeding, as Sam is dragged into the sea, his scream swallowed by the wind's roar. Reefs are silent killers, their hidden rocks tearing hulls like paper. The Stormcrow once scraped a reef near the Bahamas, the wood groaning as water flooded the hold. You'd pump bilge water for hours, legs numb in icy waves, arms aching till you thought they'd break. You'd scrub decks till your knees bleed, sew torn sails with coarse thread, or haul cannonballs until your back screams in protest. In a raid on a French merchant, a musket ball grazes your arm, the burn lingering for days, a reminder of how close death stands. Another time, Ned falls from the rigging during a squall, his body smashing the deck, blood mixing with rainwater as you look away. You'd repair leaks in the hull, water seeping through cracks, your fingers numb as you hammer planks under Blackthorn's glare. In a skirmish off Tortuga, you dodge a boarding pike, its tip grazing your ribs, the pain sharp but fleeting. Every day at sea is a gamble, every task a test of survival. If you were here, like James, every swing of your cutlass would tempt fate, but what would you face when the fight ends and the real pain begins? Injuries are as common as the waves slamming your ship. You'd bear scars on your arms from ropes snapping like whips, powder burns on your hands from cannon fire, and a deep gash on your thigh from a Spanish sailor's dagger in a botched boarding off Hispaniola. Pirates have no doctors, only Tom, the carpenter with a limp, or Silas, the one-eyed cook, hacking off limbs with rusty saws, a swig of watery rum your only relief. Skeletons from the era show broken bones, sword cuts, and joints worn raw from climbing masts or hauling cannons. You'd watch Sam lose a leg to a cannonball in a Portuguese raid, his screams piercing as Silas saws, rum spilling down his chin like tears. Sam keeps working, his stump wrapped in filthy rags, because stopping means death. Sarah, a woman pirate with fire in her eyes, takes a musket ball to the shoulder, blood soaking her coat as you bind her wound, your hands shaking, but infection claims her in days. You'd nearly lose a finger when a rope snags in the rigging, slicing to the bone, the pain throbbing as you wrap it in a rag, knowing a bad wound could finish you. In Nassau, you'd see Will limp through the streets, his hand black with gangrene, after a tavern brawl cost him 3 fingers, his face gray with pain. Ellen gashes her leg on a splintered plank, blood dripping as she sews sails, her jaw set against the agony. During a boarding, Tom takes a sword to the arm, the bones snapping like dry wood. You hold him as he bleeds out, his eyes locked on the sky, whispering of his sister in Plymouth. Another pirate, Ned, burns his hand on a cannon's hot barrel, the skin blistering as he curses through gritted teeth. In a raid, a young lad, Ben, catches a pike to the chest, his blood pooling as you drag him behind a barrel, his breath stopping before you can help. You'd patch your own cuts with stolen cloth, each scar a mark of survival, but also a warning. If you were here, like James, every wound would scream that death is near, but a worse foe sails with you, silent and deadly. Disease is a thief that kills more pirates than swords or storms. Your ship is a festering trap-foul water, in slimy barrels. Spoiled food, crawling with maggots, holds damp with mold that clings to the walls like green fur. Scurvy is the cruelest. Your gums bleed, teeth fall like pebbles, skin splits like old leather. You'd see Jack lose his teeth to scurvy, his breath reeking as he begs for oranges that never come, his fingers clawing at his swollen mouth. Yellow fever and typhus burn through the crew like wildfire, turning men to shivering wrecks. One night, young Tom shakes in his hammock, skin yellow as wax, eyes sunken like dark wells. You give him water, seeing your cousin's face in his, but he's gone by dawn, his body wrapped in a torn sail and tossed to the sea with a muttered prayer. Ship logs from the era show diseases killed more than battles, wiping out crews in weeks on long voyages without fresh food. Quasi falls to a fever after drinking stagnant water, his carved bird scattered on the deck as he whispers to African gods, his voice fading like a tide. Ellen's cough rips through her lungs, her body so light you barely feel it as you carry her to the sea for burial. Will's foot wound festers after stepping on a rusty nail, his legs swelling until he can't stand. They leave him on a barren quay, his cries fading as the storm crow sails away. You'd feel your own gums ache, your joints weaken, a cold dread settling as you sense disease stalking you. Pirates pray to anyone listening, Christian saints, African spirits, Old Norse gods, but answers are rare. You'd whisper to St. Nicholas, patron of sailors, picturing Mary praying for you in Bristol, her rosary clicking in her hands. One night, Finn's Gaelic hymns tremble in the hold, his voice breaking as he speaks of his mother's cottage in Cork. Another pirate, Sarah, murmurs to her daughter's spirit, clutching her locket. In Tortuga, you hear a Dutch pirate, Peter, pray to a sea goddess, his words slurred with fever. Disease is a shadow you can't outrun, a killer that strikes without warning. If you were here, like James, you'd feel sickness claw at your life, but the ship's brutal code keeps you moving. Control on your ship is a tightrope walked with fear and a fragile code. Captain Blackthorn rules with an iron fist, his cutlass scarred from a dozen fights, always ready to punish traitors or slackers. His face, burned by sun and powder, looks carved from stone, his eyes piercing like daggers through your soul. The pirate code equals shares of loot, brutal penalties for breaking it binds you to the crew. You'd sign it in blood, swearing loyalty, but tensions erupt like storms. Fights over rum, gold, or old grudges flare under the stars, knives flashing in the moonlight. You'd watch Jack whipped for stealing a cask of rum, his back bleeding as Blackthorn counts 20 lashes, his voice cold as steel. Pirates have a strange democracy. You'd vote for the captain, the next raid, or new rules, unlike the navies where orders are iron. But betrayal means death. Ned plots a mutiny after a lean month, whispering in the hold about seizing the ship. Caught, he's marooned on a barren island with a pistol and one bullet, his silhouette fading in the mist as you sail away. You'd resist quietly. Quasi whispers of free islands where runaways live beyond the law, his eyes bright with hope. Sarah hides coins in her boots, dreaming of buying her daughter's freedom from a cruel master. You carve an anchor into a deck plank, a nod to Mary's coin, a small rebellion against your trapped life. One night, you share tales of Bristol's docks with Tom, your whispers low under a starry sky, stories of fish markets and gulls keeping you human. Finn teaches you a Celtic knot, saying it brings luck, his rough hands steady despite the rum. Sarah speaks of her daughter, her voice cracking as she polishes her locket with a rag. Ellen murmurs of her brother, lost to a storm, her words heavy as she sharpens her knife. In Tortuga, you'd see Will give a coin to a beggar boy, his hard face softening for a moment, a rare spark of kindness. Another pirate, Peter, carves a fish into a barrel, a memory of his Dutch village. These acts, fleeting as a calm sea, are lifelines in the chaos, threads of hope you'd cling to. But rebellion has a price, and the sea collects it fast. If you were here, like James, you'd hold tight to these moments, but death waits to claim its due. Death is your constant shadow, lurking in every wave, every fight. Naval battles can sink your ship in minutes, cannons shredding wood and flesh, the sea swallowing the fallen like a hungry beast. Storms sweep men into the abyss, their screams lost in the wind's roar. Diseases decimate crews, bodies tossed overboard with barely a prayer. You'd see Will fall in a raid, his chest slashed open by a rapier, blood staining the sea red as he sinks. Sam dies of fever, his body slid into the waves, wrapped in a torn sail, his last words a plea for his mother. Marcos, weary of piracy, leaps into a storm, his form vanishing in the froth, choosing the deep over suffering. Sarah falls fighting, her cutlass raised, a musket ball cutting her down as she guards the helm. Jack is hanged from the yardarm for betraying the code, the crew silent as he swings, his boots dangling. Ellen's cough claims her lungs giving out in the damp hold, her body light as you lower it to the sea. In Nassau, Will is knifed in a tavern brawl, left bleeding in a muddy alley, his gold stolen by a stranger. Ned drowns when a wave sweeps him off the deck, his cry cut short by the sea's grip. A young lad, Ben, takes a pike to the chest in a raid, his blood pooling as you try to save him, his eyes fading. Another pirate, Peter, chokes on his own blood, a fever burning him out after weeks without fruit. For many, death is a mercy, a release from hunger, pain, and the endless fear of betrayal or capture. You'd hear pirates speak of it softly, their eyes on the horizon, as if freedom waits in the waves' embrace. If you were here, like James, this brutal world could have been your end. Todays so cruel they'd break your spirit. Nights so dark they'd steal your hope. It's a foggy dawn, and you're on the Stormcrow, chasing a Spanish galleon loaded with gold. Cannons roar, the air thick with acrid smoke and flying splinters that sting your face. You load powder, hands trembling, the gun's heat searing your skin like fire. The enemy fires back, a broadside splintering the mainmast, ropes falling like writhing snakes. Board them! Blackthorn roars, his cutlass flashing, but another volley rocks the ship, the deck shuddering under your feet. You run, cutlass raised, heart pounding like a drum, when a jagged splinter tears through your thigh, pain exploding like liquid fire. You fall, blood soaking the planks, your crewmate's screams fading in the din of cannon fire and clashing steel. You see Jack hacked down by a rapier, his body slumping into the sea. Quasi is crushed by a loose cannon, his carved birds rolling free across the deck. The Stormcrow tilts, water pouring through gaping holes, the ship groaning like a dying beast. You clutch Mary's coin, its anchor sharp against your palm, her laughter ringing in your mind, Bristol's shore vivid in your eyes. You know, wounded pirates are left behind, tossed to the sea, or marooned on desolate shores to die alone. As the ship sinks, pain burning through you, you wonder if death will come no, and if it might be kinder than the life you've chosen. You survive, but at a terrible cost. Your leg never heals right, leaving you lame, useless for the swift boarding actions Blackthorn demands. He maroons you on a barren island, a pistol with one bullet, and a flask of water, your only companions under a scorching sun. You grip Mary's coin, fingers trembling, as the Stormcrow vanishes into the haze. You leave behind friends lost to the sea, Will, Sam, Sarah, Queasy, Ellen, Ben, Peter, their names erased by the waves, their stories swallowed by the wind. Pirates like you built legends of treasure and defiance, but you'd pay with blood, sweat, and broken bones. You dreamed of freedom, escaping poverty or chains, but found new shackles in the sea's endless hunger. Your ship was a symbol of rebellion, but also a floating prison, where every day was a fight to survive. Today, the seas are quiet, their wrecks buried under coral and sand, but their stories whisper in the wind echoes of courage, sacrifice, and dreams that time cannot erase. If this story gripped your heart, you cannot miss our other video about the ancient world, just as raw and powerful. It's called Dying Was a Relief for Slaves in Ancient Greek Mines. We dive into the lives of slaves toiling in dark, choking tunnels. Their pain is heavy as yours on the storm crow. Their sacrifices just as heart-wrenching. If this pirate's life hit you hard, those slave stories will leave you speechless. Click it now. The secrets of the past are waiting to pull you in. But the seas hold more than blood and bones. They hide sunken ships, buried gold, tales of pirates who defied fate to their last breath. What else lies in the deep? That's a story for another video. Stay with me, because what's coming next will blow you away.